Old powers waken, shadows stir. An age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. An age for gods and heroes.
The glass candles are burning, and you're listening to the Obsidian Nights podcast. Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with another episode of the Obsidian Nights podcast where we go through A Song of Ice and Fire chapter by chapter, starting with the first book, A Game of Thrones. So today we are going to be doing Catelyn 7, and I have a special guest with me, Kylie. Kylie, would you like to tell everyone who you are and where they can find you?
I'm just a big fan of the books. I don't really do too much on social media. I do have a TikTok.
Love TikTok.
I have a problem. It's NEXLUX Nexlux. I have like a small amount of followers, but I'm in the creator fund. So if anybody wants to go give me a couple of views, that'd be great.
Oh, awesome. I definitely have a problem with TikTok, unhealthy obsession.
So bad.
It's so funny though. Like it's really funny on there. I love it.
Addicting.
Well, thank you for coming. So we're going to be doing Catelyn 7, and Catelyn 7 is all about Tyrion's trial and the inner monologue of Catelyn while she's in the Vale and trying to figure out these politics of getting around this trial. She's got herself into something that she really wishes that she didn't get herself into. Mm-hmm. So the chapter opens and it says, the eastern sky was rose and gold as the sun broke over the Vale of Arryn. Catelyn Stark watched the light spread, her hands resting on the delicate carved stone of the balustrade. Is that ball? What the fuck is that? Do you know that word?
Dude, I actually have an English degree and I have no idea.
Right. Like, okay, so we're on brand. It wouldn't be a gray area thing without a mispronunciation. So
balustrade.
I have no idea, but it's something that's a stone and it's outside her window. So she's basically watching the sunrise in the Eyrie.
Yes.
And one thing that was interesting to me on reread was the waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And Catelyn wondering about Alyssa's tears, like,
yes.
And I don't know, just the wording around it was really funny to me, like ghost waters and things like that. Like George just has a way of describing things. Like this scene actually sounds really beautiful.
It does. I also think that like there is so much to unpack with this small little opening. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but like I was feeling like already Lady Stoneheart foreshadowing when it comes to Catelyn. Like so much, because it's this like literally like a stone woman, this stone mountain who never cried for her loved ones who she's lost in life, which sounds a lot like Catelyn. Like I don't really recall her crying a whole lot or mourning, or like she just seems to want to take action.
Yeah. That's a very on the nose parallel. And I do think that George was plotting Lady Stoneheart very early on, because I think it was two Catelyn chapters ago, she was talking about her heart turning to stone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, mm-hmm.
They're really, yeah, he always has some like very, like there's a lot of stony imagery in this whole chapter. But yeah, that in particular, I think was foreshadowing of that. What was I going to say?
But her story really parallels with the statue, Alyssa.
It does. And it comes up again. There's the statue in the courtyard too, later on in the chapter. So yeah, there's a lot of that imagery.
But
in relation to her.
Alyssa Arryn had seen her husband, her brothers, and all her children slain, and yet in life she had never shed a tear. So in death, the gods had decreed that she would know no rest until her weeping watered the black earth of the Vale where the men she had loved were buried. And that is so on the nose for like Lady Stoneheart foreshadowing.
And it says that like the water never touches the ground, which is kind of another like implication. I don't know what's going to happen with Lady Stoneheart, but to me that's like almost an implication that this hunger for vengeance is never going to be sated. Like she will never feel closure, even in her Stoneheart form.
Yeah, she won't. And she even says like, I wonder how large of a waterfall my own tears would make when I die. Like, and she goes out very, like, she has one of the most savage deaths in the entire books. She witnesses her son get killed, like, at her brother's wedding. And then she's, like, almost killed and thrown into a river and then brought back to life. So, yeah. And I would say we should replace tears with blood because her tears are blood. The water that she's putting all around the Riverlands is blood.
Oh, yeah, definitely. She has a lot of blood on her hands for sure.
Yes. So she gets news that Jaime is, or House Lannister is gathering an army. They're putting an army together. They know that she has Tyrion. So Edmure sends Tywin a letter like, what are you doing? Like, what's your intent with this army? And Tywin doesn't respond. So I don't know, like she's got herself into a bit of a pickle here. And I think a lot of it is Lysa's fault.
Oh yeah.
Because Lysa has, sent Catelyn that letter. And then when she gets to the Eyrie with Tyrion, she realizes that Lysa's fucking crazy.
Oh yeah. I kind of like, I love and hate Lysa because of how absolutely insane she is. Like I have this like obsession with like Jodi Arias too. It's weird because she's nuts. Like women who just go completely off the deep end sometimes, it's like, wow. Like I can't like, that's like, you're really committing to that. Yeah, she's nuts. I also like to, I have this thing where I feel like George hints at, like mental illnesses or like physical illnesses in a lot of his characters. But he never puts like a label on them, obviously, because it's, Westeros times. But I do feel like Lysa is a classic case of somebody who might be suffering from like borderline personality disorder. Because she seems to be very much like up and down and manipulative, but also very insecure and narcissistic. Like everything about her screams that something is like she has something going on mentally, because I don't think normal people function like Lysa.
Oh no. Not at all.
No. So I think that she has something affecting her mental health that has caused her to really go insane. And it's interesting because, and I feel like George touches on this a lot, people who have power might have a lot of inadequacies.
Yes.
And there's people around them that just, tell them what they want to hear, give them what they want. And they are elevated even further in their mental deterioration, thinking that like, oh, well, I'm fine. I must be right. And I feel like Lysa is in a position where she is just surrounded by people telling her that she's right, where she does whatever she wants and she doesn't have any repercussions for it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why these books are so good is because George really writes them from making these characters very human. And if you notice, like, even today and throughout history, most of the people that were powerful had something wrong with them. Like, like mentally something wrong with them. It reminds me of that quote from Ragnar from Vikings where he's like, power attracts the worst and corrupts the best. I feel like there's a lot of truth to that. And I'm not saying like, mental illness is bad. I'm just saying that Lysa is humanized in a way where like we get like some of her backstory where we know that she was forced to have an abortion. Like she was forced to take that tansy tea by Hoster. So she has like, some kind of past trauma. And when you have past trauma and you don't deal with it, sometimes mental issues can arise. And sometimes mental issues can happen anyway. But Lysa, to me, definitely could have borderline personality disorder and also like PTSD.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, mental illness is ugly and it doesn't turn out well for people. So, I think it's realistic. It's not always a pretty, beautiful thing or sadness, or sometimes it's scary,
Yes, it is. Like Robert Baratheon, he definitely has like depression and PTSD. Like he definitely has it. Like I think the only person that's like semi-normal is Ned Stark, but then Ned Stark even has issues with like being haunted by his past and like his wars and battles and things that he's been through. So yeah, they all have issues, and that's what makes them really good, relatable characters.
Yeah. And I also think the other thing with the Tullys in particular, I know Catelyn gets a lot of crap because she's complicated. She's a complicated character. I'm not like a Catelyn stan, but I do feel like she deserves a little bit more credit because, she and Lysa are raised with the, family duty honor. That. And to me, family duty honor you can have duty and honor, but can you have family and duty and honor? You know what I mean? And I feel like their words are kind of like a paradox.
Conflicting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like the Night's Watch, right? You're not supposed to have a family because, love is the death of duty. And,
that's a really good point.
Yeah. And like Catelyn and Lysa have been either forced or have chosen to, choose either family or duty and honor, whereas Lysa had, an abortion for honor and duty, and that has completely messed her up. And Catelyn, on the other hand, she always chooses family, and it makes her make rash decisions, and it gets her into a lot of trouble to the point where she has one of the worst fallouts of any character in the book. So she definitely reaps the choices that she makes choosing family over duty and honor. So they're interesting.
Yeah. My issue with Catelyn is that she went with Rob instead of going home to Bran and Rickon.
I agree. I think Rob's her favorite for sure.
But she says it's Bran.
But I don't know. He's crippled now. I feel like she just is like, Rob's that's her boy now,
I don't know. Or maybe she feels like, Rob is in danger, so she needs to be with Rob.
Yeah.
But it's like, ma'am, you have infants.
I know you have a small child who's running feral up north.
Yes. So, Catelyn wants to like not have this trial, right? Like she wants this trial. Like she's like, this shit is stupid. Like if we hurt him, we're gonna pay for that shit. Like there's gonna be a war.
Yeah, she knows Tyrion is worth way more alive than he is dead. Particularly because things are getting a little hot. But I mean, Lysa's crazy, and Robin's crazy too.
Yeah, and like Catelyn is kind of like, well, let's talk to him privately. That's what Catelyn wanted, was to talk to Tyrion privately. But Lysa wanted to make a show of everything, and now she's in this predicament where she has to follow through with her word, or she's going to lose respect in the Vale. And she's in a predicament where she needs the people of the Vale to support her son.
Yeah.
And any wrong step that she makes, she could lose the support of the people in the Vale. And that's like, they don't really know her like that. She's been in King's Landing most of their marriage. So they don't really know her like that, or her son like that. And Catelyn is like, I just want to remind you that he's my prisoner. Like, Tyrion is my prisoner. And Lysa's like, well, he killed my husband, the hand of the king. Like, he's my husband's killer. And Cat is smart. Like, when Cat starts thinking and not acting irrationally, when she actually thinks about things in her inner monologue, she's so smart. Because she's like, well, your letter said that Cersei killed the hand of the king. Now you're saying Tyrion did it. Are you saying that because Tyrion's here and Cersei isn't? Like, is that?
I feel like she knows that. I think she knows the truth. And I feel like if she could just look a little bit past her biases and at the actual, like, unfortunate truth of what Lysa is, she could even take it a step further and be like, I think Lysa is just flat out lying. I feel like her personal biases have blinded her to believe like what's in the letter, but I feel like she knows that something is not true.
Yeah, I think just the interactions that she's had with Lysa just this far, these last couple chapters, is enough to let her know something is seriously off about her sister.
Yeah.
And I think Catelyn is just regretting this whole fucking thing. And even when she says, like, I wish I burned that letter before I read it. She said that, it kind of sealed it to me that she knows that this is either bad information or nothing is like what it seems.
Yeah.
But she has no choice but to kind of be committed to this now because she's too far in to turn back around.
Yep.
But Catelyn does explain it to Lysa, like, we don't have anything to gain, from killing Tyrion. Like, if Tyrion loses, it's gonna be hell to pay.
Oh, but it just seems like Lysa is like, she's pretty much committed to it and she doesn't want to hear reason. But also a lot of it seems to be that like Robin is just like, I want
him to fly.
I want him to fly. And she will do anything to make her child happy. She's like one of those parents that's like, the child has all the control. It's awful.
Yeah. And he's sickly. So
yeah,
that's like, kind of scary,
Yeah. We're just gonna have to go through with it, I guess.
So they wind up going through with the fight. Yes. The fight still happens. And we have two people. Servardis Egan. Servardis Egan is like a Knight of the Vale. He shows up full armor, head to toe, and then all Bronn has on is just like some ringmail and boiled leather. and it reminds me of the Mountain versus Oberyn, where Oberyn really has nothing on and the Mountain is all armored up.
Yes, I put that in my notes. It does. It's very reminiscent of. There's a couple different fights in this book too, where there's always one, like hero or whatever that's a traditional kind of knight, and then there's the like anti-hero, and the anti-hero always seems to, unfortunately, in Oberyn's case, doesn't win, but he should have. But they always seem to come out like with the upper hand or on top, which, is an implication in my, opinion that it's tradition isn't always the correct way to do things. And tradition just for tradition can be detrimental. So yeah, but this fight does remind me a lot of the Mountain versus the Viper.
Yeah. I don't know what it like. When I first saw the Mountain fight in Oberyn, I thought Oberyn was going to win. And if you watch this fight, of course you think Oberyn's going to win because Oberyn is dressed like Bronn. The Mountain's all weighed down in armor. And then, whoop, Oberyn doesn't win. But in this case, Bronn does win.
Yep.
Bronn does win. But when the fight is going on, Bronn doesn't even have a shield.
No.
He doesn't even have a shield. Like, he doesn't want a shield. He's fighting like Floyd Mayweather. If you watch boxing, he's fighting
no.
like
You
Floyd
just
Mayweather.
run around, yeah.
Yeah, just run
Let them
around.
blow their steam off.
Let's tire you out.
Mhm.
Catelyn, though, which is interesting to me, is Catelyn is like thinking about the duel between Brandon and Peter.
Yes.
Peter Baelish, Littlefinger. And I think that she should be putting shit together. Why are you thinking about that, Catelyn? Well, Peter Baelish and Lysa are plotting against you and using you to start a war. And they're doing it together. And I don't know if that doesn't really trigger any memories with Catelyn, but she talks about if you don't know the story, Brandon fought Peter Baelish. Peter Baelish challenged him to a duel for Catelyn's love. And Catelyn had to like beg Brandon not to kill Peter Baelish. And he almost killed him, and he gave him a scar. And that's one of the main reasons I feel like he hates the Starks. I feel like that's why he hates Ned.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think it's interesting because if you read the way in which Catelyn's recalling the fight between Littlefinger and oh my God, what's his name? What's Stark? The other Stark? Brandon. Sorry. Between Littlefinger and Brandon, she has this very like superior kind of complex, where because she's like a noble and Littlefinger's kind of this just little guy who comes from nothing, who's weak and has nothing, and he gets destroyed during this fight. And like that's how she looks at him, is a weak person to be pitied. And while she might think of him fondly, she still thinks that he's not a threat. And I feel like that permeates with her until she sees him again in King's Landing, and she still looks at him the same way because she doesn't know who he is now. So I don't think that she could ever, I don't think that she could ever fathom in her head that he would be capable of killing people secretly, plotting, doing all the stuff that he does, because she's got her own biases. So yeah.
She does. And it's funny because I was talking about this on another episode, that she tries to talk Ned, like when she talks to Ned about Robert, she's like, you don't know him now. You knew who he was, but who is he now? And like, bitch, use your logic.
I know. She can be stubborn and very much have her blinders on for sure.
But that's normal though. Like it's normal for us to tell other people how things are and how things look, but when you have to do that for yourself, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Basically, Ser Vardis is losing. Mm-hmm. Bronn, the statue falls over or he gets pinned under the fallen statue, and Bronn delivers the blow to kill him. And he's dead.
Yeah. I think that the ending of that fight is very interesting imagery as well, because it's like another stone lady statue, mm-hmm. Who were obviously in the beginning of the chapter were supposed to be comparing Catelyn to Alyssa. And this is mm-hmm. the statue of Alyssa. And it's literally crushing a man and making him incapacitated and killing him, which to me says that like Catelyn has now the blood of somebody, the blood of somebody on her hands that she could not have predicted that her choices would have, made basically die. But I think it just shows you the reaches of the choices that people make and their consequences. So I feel like that is, I don't know, symbolic, I guess.
It is. No, yeah. That's really good. I got the chills. I got the chills. Yeah. But Lysa fucking loses her mind, and she's like, we'll kill him anyway. Like kill him anyway. Like
I know.
our house words are as high as honor. And little Robert's like, we want to make him fly. We want to make him fly. And I'm like, boy, would you shut the fuck up? Like if that was my son,
Oh, I know.
he would not even be there. He'd be like in his playroom playing with toys or something. I don't understand why he's even there.
Which again is another interesting thing. Like, it's so crazy to me that this little kid is like so cool with people just getting like executed, like, and being murdered pretty much, and watching people die. Like, what is going on in the Vale? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, that's the crazy place. And you know that the fucking Vale drove Daemon Targaryen crazy.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. I had another story. There's a lot in this chapter that I was like rereading and I noticed. I think there is a big implication for something going on in the Eyrie, because I don't know if you read the part closely where they're talking about the Godswood, where there was supposed to be a weirwood tree, but they couldn't get one to grow. And they like brought up dirt from the Vale and they're trying to make it grow, but because it's like this big rocky place, they couldn't get it to root. And I don't know if you have heard of the theory that I forget who put it out there, but I think In Deep Geek has talked about it. The Pando theory. You know, there's like that forest in Utah where the trees are all one tree. They're like all connected in a rooting system. And so there's this theory out there that the weirwoods are actually just all interconnected. And that's why they can't grow in places like the Eyrie because it's too rocky, or I don't think they're in Bravos because it's too much ocean in between them. So I think and then you have this rocky place where you can't grow a weirwood, where they're literally throwing people to their death. And, you know, there's the whole Bran chapter of trying to get him to fly. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of like implication that there's some lack of magic, or how maybe it's corrupt, or there's some inability to reach it. With the weirwoods, for better or worse, I don't know. But if there's some sort of like magical implication behind that I thought was interesting. So.
I mean, I think that's interesting too. And I know Preston Jacobs has talked about like how he thinks there's something going on with the Weirwood throne in the Eyrie, and like Sweet Robin being controlled by that throne in some kind of way, like by Bloodraven. I don't know the ins and outs of the theory. I haven't really delved deep into it, but I do think that it's interesting. And I specifically think it's interesting because the people in the Eyrie are of Andal descent, and the Andals are the ones that destroyed most of the weirwoods and destroyed most of the children of the forest. So if they did have beef, the beef would be with the Andals.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's some like overarching. I mean, there has to be some sort of implication, because I don't see why George would just be like, "Hey, they can't grow a weirwood tree here," like for no reason. So there has to be like some sort of meaning behind it, but I haven't been able to completely like figure that one out yet.
Yes. So basically, the chapter ends with Tyrion winning and leaving, and they basically say, you know, like, Lysa basically is like, you know, escort them to the Bloody Gate, give them supplies, they go the rest of the way on their own. And the people are like, oh, so she's sentencing them to death anyway, because they don't think that they're gonna make it. Because getting there, they had to like fight these people. But Tyrion's not worried about that shit, because Tyrion's gonna make friends with the wildlings. But Tyrion basically mocks Lysa and dips.
Yeah.
And takes Bronn with him.
I like it. Yeah. Tyrion's great.
So that is Catelyns 7. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No. I rambled a lot there.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. It was really good. It was really good. You are really good. I love the Lady Stoneheart, all the Lady Stoneheart things, because that statue falling on Sir Bartis Egan, and that fight would have never happened if Catelyn had never took Tyrion and brought Tyrion there to the Vale. Yeah. So that is blood on her hands that she didn't necessarily plan on having on her hands. Yeah. And it does kind of show the consequences of your choices.
Yep. Very spot on.
Very spot
George on. Tends to do.
Very, very good. But I would like to thank you for coming on. And if you want to let the people know one more time, they can find you on TikTok. What's your ad on TikTok?
Yeah, it's NEXLUX, Nexlux.
All right. Thanks, Kylie. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.